On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, it's our biggest episode of the year. It's the 8th annual Locked On Raptors Over, Unders, and Props Spectacular with Vivek, Jakob, and Sahal Abdi. Let's go!
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, October the 22nd. It is Toronto Raptors Eve, baby. And I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now, going on 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the bad website that sucks, at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. You can join the Locked On Raptors Discord server for free at the link in the description of the podcast to be part of our ever-growing listener community. And, of course, you can subscribe to the free daily Locked On Raptors newsletter, which is now a couple days into working here. You can subscribe, get free original writing from myself, from Katie Heindel, from a whole bunch of other folks in there, Josh Lloyd's fantasy tips every single day, right to your inbox for free. Once again, link in the description of the podcast. Today's show is brought to you by friends over at FanDuel, where you can start big on FanDuel this season. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we will get started here on my favorite episode of the year before all of my hopes have been dashed. It is the 8th annual Locked On Raptors Over, Unders, and Props contest with myself, Vivek, Jakob, and Sahal Abdi, who are here for the 8th time. We're old, man. Let's bring him in. 4-time champion, Vivek Jakob. Big V, how are you, pal?
I'm doing great, man. As you said, one of the best episodes to do all year. And it's great to have Sahal join us. And we've got a lot of pressure this year. So, Sahal can tie it up if he gets it done. So I'm looking forward to finally, having some heat on my back.
Imagine winning things. That could not be me. Speaking of winning things, the defending champion, Sahal Abdi, who went into last year feeling extremely pessimistic about the Toronto Raptors, and it paid off big time as he waxed us all, and I believe got a higher score than everybody in the listener contest as well. Truly, the hating got him whole lots of points last year. Sahal, how are you, my friend? Are you feeling equally pessimistic this year?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about pessimism is a lot of times it pays in the NBA with a hopeful high draft pick. But yeah, it's good to be back. I feel a little old, Sean. 8th annual props kind of contest we're doing, and this show is amazing. I just want to point that out really quick. Locked On Raptors, you've been doing it for quite a while, and I'm excited. It's one of the very few in my constant rotation of podcasts. So I'm excited, man. I'm super excited. Of course, I want to defend this. I'm not just here to beat you two. I want to make that clear. I'm here to beat everybody. And that's how it's cool.
Yes, a reminder, before we get rolling here, there will be a listener contest you can enter. I'll put out the Google form later today with all of the over-unders that we are picking here, and you will have until tip-off of the game on Wednesday to get your entries in and see if you can compete with Blair Weston, the defending champion, who will be going to a Toronto Raptors game this year on my dime because he won last year, the listener competition, even though, again, Sahal beat everybody, and it's very upsetting. All right, let's dive in, boys. No more wasting time. We have 18 over-unders and props to get to. We're not doing two parts. We're just getting through it all today. So we're going to be quick, we're going to be to the point, and we're going to get our picks in here. We begin, as we usually do, with a recurring points plus rebounds plus assists over-under for the best player on the Toronto Raptors. And for the first time, that player is Scottie Barnes after Pascal Siakam's short-lived run as the guy this question was about. The question here, Scottie Barnes, points plus rebounds plus assists, 37.0 last year. 34.2 was his total, and I will go first. I'm going to take the over here. I think Scottie Barnes is going to be awesome this season. Maybe I am a little bit pilled by that game against the Celtics where he looked like an all-NBA player, but I'm all right believing in that because Scottie Barnes rules. I think the ecosystem he's going to be playing in the starting five in particular, but even when guys like Kelly Olynyk are in the lineup, I think he's going to have all kinds of room to operate. I think he's going to refine his pick and roll craft. I think the mid-range stuff is going to take a jump. I think the scoring is going to see an increase, and the Raptors sure love to rack up assists. So I am saying over 37 for Scottie Barnes, points plus rebounds plus assists to get things started on a positive note, which did not work for me last year. Big V, what you got here, over or under?
I'm with you. I am going to go with the over.
Love it. You can offer, like, I know I said to be quick and to the point. You can offer like a quick thought of summation of your feelings on it. It's fine.
No, I mean, you shared your thoughts, so I didn't want to be on top of that. I know we're on a quick timeline here, so yeah, no, I think this is going to be a great season for Scottie. I think the way that he showed out against Boston. I mean, obviously, no one's going to expect him to make 5 threes every game, but I do think that this is going to be a big year for him, and that he is going to be a big part of the offense.
You heard it here first. 5 threes every game, definitely happening. Vivek, Jakob. I can definitely carefully edit around that and get that going. So, Hall, what you got? Over under 37.0 points, rebounds plus assists for Scottie Barnes.
37 is a great number you set, because I'm trying to imagine.
Well, I know. I said it. I'm really good at this.
Points, rebounds, and assists. And I'm like, wait, okay, 25, 7, 6, 24, 7. I'm trying to think of all these numbers to try and get there. But I'm going to actually stick with you guys. I'm going to go with over as well. I love being that guy that goes last and just ends up going against the grain against you guys. But I'm going to go over for that simple reason. I think Scottie Barnes is going to be the focal point this year. Teams know that, but he's proved, at least in the preseason thus far, that he can be that guy for the Raptors, even knowing that the Raptors are probably not going to be the best team this year, right? They're not going to be, I mean, them just fighting for the playoffs would be, I think, an accomplishment. So, yeah, I'm going to go over. I'm going to stick with you guys.
All right. We are all over, which means we're all tied right now if the asteroid hits, and I get my first win. All right. Gradey Dick. Points per game, 11.5. Last season, he averaged 8.5. 11.5, I believe, is what he averaged in like February on. You can do all kinds of arbitrary endpoints with Gradey from last season, but 11.5 felt like a pretty good spot to put this over under. Big V, I'll put it to you. What you got here, over or under 11.5 points for Gradey Dick, and why?
I am going with the over on this one as well.
Okay.
I do think that he is going to have the starting job, and I do think that he has come a long way from last season, even, that great end of season that we saw. And if you go back to that, he averaged 12.5 points per game after the All-Star break. And so I do think that he will be able to clear the 11.5, and I feel pretty good about that.
All right. So, Hall, what you got? Over, under 11.5 for Gradey?
I think one of the biggest, I guess, for at least for Darko Rajakovic, is the emphasis he's going to put on this season is getting Gradey Dick the ball in positions where he's most comfortable, and you saw that in the preseason, especially in that last Celtics game. And I think he has the ability to score for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to have a huge role this season. Again, you got to see what you have in Gradey Dick and make the most of that draft selection. So this is probably one of the easier ones, Sean. I'm going to go over as well.
All right. Our first disagreement is I am going to take like a very, very tiny under. I think Gradey Dick is going to have a big season. I think he's going to average probably very close to 11.5 points a game, but I'm seeing a chance here for me to pick up a point on you guys, and I'm getting a little strategic here. And I do think just like the math ain't totally mathin' for me of how all of the Raptors starters average north of 11.5 points a game. I think Jakob Poeltl is going to average more than 11.5. I think he's going to be a big part of what they do, and he's just going to have a lot of garbage buckets and pick and roll buckets and dump off buckets that he accrues over the course of games. And I think Scottie, Quickley, and Barrett are all going to flirt with around 20 points. We'll get into those guys and their scoring output later on. And then you got to factor in bench guys. I think it's going to be very close. He very well could get over that 11.5. I won't be upset about it. I'm rooting to be wrong on this one, but just as a bit of strategery, I'm going to take the under. And I do think there's a case here that he just barely falls short of that. Yeah, he averaged north of that last season down the stretch, but also all of the guys who do the usage on the team were not available for very long stretches of that time. I think he's going to be super useful and additive to the team. I think they're going to kick ass when he's on the floor. I just think the scoring output might not quite be there as much as the actual on-court tangible impact will be. Let's quickly go now to Immanuel Quickley. Assists per game. I have set this one at 7.3, half an assist up from the 6.8 he averaged last year during his time with the Toronto Raptors, which is what I'm going off here. Sahal, I will put it to you first. Immanuel Quickley, over or under 7.3 assists per game.
I think a little bit of an inflator for Quickley and his assist stats last year. had to do with Jakob Poeltl not being that play initiator that they hoped they would have from the bigs. So that inflated it a little bit. But what I will say is I'm going to take the under, first of all, just to make that clear. It won't be a very far away under. But I do think that Immanuel Quickley, man, I think for the Raptors to have a big step this season, he has to blossom as a playmaker. You need that guy to get into the hands of Scottie and Gradey and some of the other players in advantageous positions. So I'm going to take the under. But it's a positive outlooking under.
I am taking the over on this one. The Raptors get a whole buttload of assists just by being on the floor. It's kind of their whole deal. I think also Jakob Poeltl being back in the lineup is going to mean that Immanuel Quickley is not running pick and roll with Malik Williams, and therefore will get a lot more assists in pick and roll than he was able to last year during the stretches where Yak was out. And I think of the three guys, Quickley, Barnes, and Barrett, he probably ends up third in scoring, although I'm not fully sure, and I might change my mind by later in this podcast. But I think he's just going to have like slightly less usage and going to be asked to create a lot. And therefore, I am going to say he's going to have a whole lot of assists just fall into his lap. I think he's going to average north of 8 this year. I'm taking the over. Big V, what you got?
I am going under.
Cowards, I'm winning, baby. I'm going to win. This is already 2 points for me on the board. We love it.
I think Immanuel Quickley is going to have a great season, but to your point
whose
about
thing keeps ringing, turn it off, please.
It's not me.
Not me.
It's 100% you.
Oh, okay.
So to the point about you saying that the Raptors are a team that just racks up assists all over the place. I think that is what is going to work against Quickley this season, where there is actual point guard depth. There is going to be Jakob Poeltl playing more than he did last season and more involved. And so I do think he won't have as much of the playmaking responsibilities. And so I do think he's going to be more of a scorer this season. And so I would just go slightly. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close. I think you set the number really, really well at 7.3. And I could see it being right around 7, but I will take the slight under.
That's fair. I mean, look, I'm just a noted believer in Immanuel Quickley, guy who's good at point guard stuff. And what do point guards do? They rack up them dimes, baby. So I'm over. You guys are both under. We're going to come back. We're going to continue to power through these over-unders with our next set. A lot more player-specific ones. Jakob Poeltl minutes per game. RJ Barrett true shooting percentage. It's all coming up here in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. And look, at Halloween, we have all types of fun with free fears and ghosts and frights and goblins, but sometimes you got real fears. Maybe it's the fear of the future. Maybe it's financial insecurity. Maybe it's the fear of, maybe not getting the most out of what you want to be doing with your life. And therapy can be a way to help you get that stuff on track and talk to somebody about the things you're worried about so you can then move through them and find coping mechanisms to deal with them. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Back at it here with the Locked On Raptors over-unders and props spectacular. 3 down, 12 to go. Wait, no, 15 to go. Let's go. We got to go quick. Next one, Jakob Poeltl, minutes per game. Last year played 26.4 minutes a game. I have set the over-under at 29.5. Maybe a little bit high here, but here's my case. I'm taking the over. I just think there are no other centers on this team. Jakob Poeltl is going to be really useful and helpful to what the starters want to do. And I think that the sort of issues of him not closing games from the start of last year will be gone because it's not a cramped spacing disaster. So I think he's going to set a career high minutes played. I think he's going to be super important for this team. And I'm taking the over on Jakob Poeltl minutes. Big V, what about you?
I am going to go with the under. I do think that it's going to be close once again. You've picked a good number, but I do think it is going to shade to the under just because, yeah, sure, the Raptors don't have a lot of depth at center, but I do think we could see some of those small ball lineups, and we could see, Scottie at the 5. So when it comes to closing lineups, I won't be surprised if we see more of, Scottie at the 5 and going that way. And so for that reason, I will just go slightly under the 29.5, which I believe
We've
he's
got
only done once in his career so far.
Yeah, he's never played more than 30. I am taking, again, a career high guess here. But again, I think it's because, boy, oh boy, even when they go small, who are the wings that are filling in those lineups? They got none. Sahal, what you got? We've got some intrigue here with me going away from you guys the last couple, me going away from Big V on this one. Where are you going here?
I hate agreeing with Vivek, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to I think for the Raptors to have a successful season, Jakob Poeltl has to be healthy, and there's a very big difference sometimes with bigs when giving them 30, 31, 32 minutes a game than giving them 26, 27, 28. So I'm going to take the under, but it will be a slight one.
All right, moving on. RJ Barrett, true shooting percentage, over-under set exactly at 60%. Last year, he was 61.5%. Of course, hit every 2 he took, it seemed, was incredible at the rim, hit a lot of threes, was not so good at the free throw line, which hurt that true shooting as it could have been even better. Vivek, we will go to you first here. You're going over-under on 60.0 true shooting for RJ Barrett.
Well, with this one, it is tough. But I am going to believe in RJ. I'm going to believe that he can get this thing done and that he is just an uber efficient player. And I think more than anything, it's the shot selection. I think the shot diet that he's had in Toronto, I think will continue. And so for that reason, I will go with the over 60. And here's hoping that his free throws are a bit better than last season. Way better.
Well, oh man. Sahal, what you got for this one?
Now I just want to disagree, just for the sake of disagreeing. At this
sometimes
point.
That's fun. Sometimes that's good strategically.
It is, Sean.
This is the guy who's never won.
There's a lot more left. So I'm also going to take the over. I think RJ, you look at the last half of last year, Canada. RJ doesn't look like a totally different player, but he does look like a better player. And I think he's learning more and more how to play with the Toronto Raptors around him. So I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, I am going to take the slight over as well and be boring and agree with you guys. I think it's not going to be a slam dunk. I think there's a chance the three-point shooting is not 39%. I think there's a chance he doesn't hit 95% of his shots at the rim, roughly. I think that's what he hit. I think my math might be exactly on there. But I do think the free throws bounce back a little bit because it's weird that they were so bad last year. And I do really believe that the looks he gets within the Raptors offense are just really, really good. He's going to have free lanes to the basket, a whole bunch. And I just think that, he, as a play finisher on this team, he's going to be put in all kinds of positions to succeed. So I'm going over as well. Total minutes played among the rookies. Who has the most total minutes played? Jakob Poeltl, Jonathan Mobo, or Jamal Shed? Sorry to exclude Ulrich Shamshay. We'll hear from him later on in the show, though. Sahal, what you got here? Who's playing the most minutes of these three?
Ooh, Jamal Shed's looked so good so far. But I think even though Mogbo has looked like the guy who could start if things get really bad for the Raptors, which tends to happen a lot of times for bad NBA teams, by the end of the year, it seems like everybody's injured and random guys starting out of nowhere. But I'm going to go with the first rounder. I'm going to go with Jakob Poeltl simply because of that draft selection. I think they wanted that to pay off, just like Gradey Dick as well with his breakout.
I like it. Man, this one is hard. I don't think it's going to be Jamal Shed. I think Davion Mitchell's going to get the first crack at being the main guy with the ball in his hands in the second unit. I think we're going to see a lot of Quickley running with the bench. I think we're going to see a lot of Scottie running with the bench. And I think Shed will probably get some run, but I don't know if it's going to be as much as these other guys. I'm going to go with Mobo, even though I don't feel great about it. We'll have a bit of a head start on Mobo just because Walter's going to miss the very start of the season. I do think there's a chance Walter plays more minutes per game, but this is total minutes. So I'm going to go Mobo. I also think to go back to our pal Vivek's note about the small ball lineups. I am super, super geeked up to see Scottie Barnes, Kelly Olynyk, Jonathan Mobo as a second unit front court. I want to see it real bad. And so if this is speaking that into existence, I guess I'm doing that. So yeah, Mobo for me. Who you got here, Big V?
Well, I tend to agree with you. And so I am rolling with Jonathan Mobo. I do think,
Hell yeah. Mobo Nation, let's go.
as much as Walter is the high pick, he's going to miss out on some minutes to start the season. So we'll see when he actually starts out. He is in a bit of a positional crunch because by the time he comes back, Bruce Brown could figure into the equation. Obviously, we've got Gradey Dick in there. Davion Mitchell is going to get minutes, playing the two, I think, at some points. And so I think the positional crunch is tough there. Whereas if you look at Mobo and playing the four, it's obviously there's Scottie, but then there's Boucher and Mobo. And so I think, especially in the second half of the season, depending on what happens with Chris Boucher, or if they just go full out into development, you could see Mobo really rack up the minutes.
Johnny Mo Buckets it is. All right, next up here, we've got combined points per game from Davion Mitchell, Ochai Agbaji, Kelly Olynyk, and Bruce Brown. The first four presumed guys off the bench when this team is healthy. It's not exactly a sterling crew, but 32.5 is what I've set it here as the bench production for those four guys coming off the bench just in pure points per game. I am going to take a very slight over here. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I think Kelly Olynyk's probably going to average like 11 or 12 a game. I think one of Mitchell or Agbaji will probably chip in like 8 or something like that. And I think Brown will probably, kind of be around 8 or 9 as well. I don't love it. I don't feel great, but if we're kind of averaging it out, do these guys average between them 8 points a game on an individual basis? Probably. But yeah, it's like a very soft over for me. Vivek, what you got?
I am going to take a slight under.
Okay.
I do think, Kelly's numbers are maybe a bit inflated by the fact that he had to start at center at the end of the year last year. And so
that's a good point.
I do think that, we'll see a bit of a dip there. Agbaji, obviously, he's got that positional crunch as well. So he's got that issue. Mitchell's not a scorer. Brown, I mean, we'll see how much he gets showcased versus, how much the young guys are prioritized. And that might be the X factor in all of this. And with all of that said, I will take the under.
Yeah, I don't like that I've taken the over, but I've made my bed, so I'll lay in it. So, Hall, what you got?
You know what, Sean? Even with you saying that, I'm going to take the over on this one, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
A lot of my thinking with some of these over unders is it's the Gradey Dick one, the over 11.5. A lot of it is really just thinking that the Raptors are going to reach a point this season where they go, you know what? Maybe we're not. And I'm sorry to say this, but maybe we're not that good. Maybe we're just not that good of a basketball team. And I feel like every time that's happened for the Raptors, guys get injured. They stay out a little longer than they're supposed to. And then the bench unit comes in and starts kind of inflating their stats a bit. So I think that's where the points are going to go up for this one. So I'm going to take the over pretty comfortably for me, at least, with that logic.
Fair enough. We move on now to the next one, number 8 on our list. Immanuel Quickley, total 3-point field goals made. I've set the over-under quite high at 208.5. He hit 171 last year. That's his career high. I don't know. Maybe this is not high enough. I'm not quite sure. But let's go with Vivek. What you got on this one? Over under 208.5 threes for Quickley.
Yeah. So looking back on last season, he made like 2.8 threes a game as a Raptor, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And so I think based on that logic, he should get over the 200 mark. That 208 is kind of dicey. And then you got to factor in what Sahal was saying. Hey, end of season, or a guy's going to be in the lineup, or all of that stuff. How's that going to figure into the equation? And so I will go with a slight under.
Okay. All right. Sahal, what about you?
Yeah, for that same reason, I'm going to take the under as well.
Okay. You guys are both way wrong. I set this way too low, and I tricked you. No, Immanuel Quickley is going to hit like 250 threes this year. He's going to take so many of them, and he's going to hit a lot of them. I am a big believer in like 4 threes a game from Quickley on like 10 attempts. I think it's happening. I think the math is going to work out. I think he's going to end up very near the top of the league in 3-pointers made and attempted, because he's going to have to be for this team to fill in its sort of 3-point volume gap. I'm taking a comfortable over, and this may be the best over I felt about all day. Next up, another over-under related to Immanuel Quickley, but also his two pals, Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett. Over-under 64.5 combined points per game for Quickley, Barrett, and Barnes. None of them averaged over 20. Actually, Barrett averaged over 20 a game last year. The other two did not. So it averaged well under 60 as a trio last season. Not well under, but enough under. 64.5 assumes that they're probably all close to or over 20. Sahal, what you got here? 64.5 as a combined points for the big three.
Give me just 1 sec. I'm just adding this up really quick.
You're just doing math on the fly? I don't think that's allowed.
Wait a sec. Okay, so
no calculators. Put the Texas Instruments away.
I came up to the number 63.5. So with that being said, just because I did that math really quick in my head, wink, wink, I'm going to stick with the under on this one, even though I have Scottie Barnes just really going nuts this year, taking a big leap in points.
Yeah, I did. I don't think I actually did. I should have found the exact average between the three last year. Also, their numbers are noisy because they didn't play at the same time for long stretches and yada, yada, yada. But I'm going to take the over. I think Scottie Barnes is going to average like 24 a game. I think that scoring jump is coming. And from there, I think you're probably going to get about 20 from each of these guys, 20, 21. And I think you'll just get over that 64.5. They're going to be asked to do a lot for this team for the time that they're asked to play games for this team. So I think they're going to walk into a bunch of points. I am taking the over. And Vivek, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to take the over as well. I think that, so last season, I believe it added up to exactly 64. And you obviously make a very valid point in that they didn't all play together at the same time. And so the structure and the flow of the offense will be different when all three of them are playing together. But I do think that they will all hit the 20 mark, and I will take the slight over on this one.
All righty. We're going to come back on the other side. We got 9 down. We got 9 to go. We're going to rattle through those as fast as we can as we get into some more team-focused over-unders for your upcoming Toronto Raptors season. We'll do all that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our pals over at FanDuel, the #1 sportsbook in North America. And NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can go and check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Go check them out. Of course, it's not just football. If you want to make a futures bet on, say, the Toronto Raptors over-under, which we're going to get to coming up in just a second here, I believe it's 30.5 for this season. Maybe you feel good about the over-under there. You can go throw some scratch down. It's a wonderful thing. So go check it out. Of course, it's not just the NBA either. If you're a hockey fan, you got hockey nightly money lines. If that's your thing, baseball season, maybe you want to pick who's going to sign with which teams or who's going to win the World Series. Of course, that's happening before the offseason. Either way, go check out FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Wrapping it up here. Well, we're ways from wrapping it up. We have 9 more of these to rattle through here in the final segment, which might be a long segment, but that's fine. We pick it up with our team-focused over-unders now. And this one is about individual guys on the team. Who will be the second leading scorer on the Toronto Raptors this season? We're going to go points per game for this one, as we usually do. So second leading points per game scorer on the Raptors. I am going to say RJ Barrett. I think it's very close between him and Quickley. I think Scottie's going to be number 1. He's just going to have the ball a ton, and I think he's going to make a big jump. Barrett, I think, just as the play finisher, is going to rack up the second most number of points per game. But again, very, very close. Big V, what you got?
I'm going to go with Immanuel Quickley as the second leading scorer. I do agree with you. I do agree with you that Scottie Barnes is going to be the leading scorer. I think the way the offense is going to function is going to allow him to do that. And I think there's going to be a whole bunch of kickouts and opportunities for Quickley in that way. Barrett obviously was awesome, but I do think he'll just slide down the pecking order slightly.
Fair enough. And Sahal, what about you? Who's the second leading scorer on the team?
I'm going to go RJ as well, Sean. I'm going to agree with you on this one. I just think I'm so high on RJ. I'm so high, especially in the last year. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was super skeptical on his, when he's first traded to the Raptors from the Knicks. just in terms of what he looked like thus far. But then I did realize sometimes when things change around you and some of the pieces are different around you, you change, right? So it's a very natural thing, and I think that's why I'm gonna go Scottie. I will say though, Immanuel Quickley's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot when he's healthy. So
yeah, he'll have the ball in his hands all the time, throwing a bunch of assists and getting me that point from earlier in the show. Moving on to our next one here. The net rating for the Immanuel Quickley, Gradey Dick, RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, Jakob Poeltl lineup per 100 possessions on clean the glass. So that isolates for garbage time, gets rid of it because it's garbage. I've set the over-under at +4.5 per 100 possessions. Vivek, I will put it to you first, over or under?
Yeah, this is one where I'm just gonna have to take a stab in the dark. I will go with the under. I do think that obviously, I think the starting five is solid, but I just think that there's gonna be some lessons learned, and I think there are gonna be some growing pains, and maybe Jakob Poeltl isn't around long enough for them to really excel.
You're one of those sickos. Ugh, disgusting, nasty, nasty stuff. I mean, if Poeltl gets traded a week into the season, the numbers from the first part of the season will hold up for this question. So whether he's on the team or not is irrelevant to how this lineup does. But you put it in, it's fine. Sahal, what you got? Over or under +4.5?
Same thing as Vivek. This is almost like what'd you call it? A stab in the dark? I'm gonna do. This is right on tap. So I'm gonna do over. Why not?
Yeah.
When I can't really decide, I'm just gonna be that guy that waits for Vivek and just says the opposite thing. So
I like it. I am declaratively saying this is going to be a hard over. This lineup is going to whip ass. The basketball fit of these five guys on offense, defense we'll see, but offense, they're going to score a lot of points. There is a lot of shooting. There's a lot of ball handling. There's a lot of passing. This is going to be a kick-ass lineup. I'm really excited to watch it play. What the rest of the team does could be dire and bad and sucky, and it will just undo all the goodwill they put in on the floor. But I'll keep on going back. Again, small sample. It was the second most used lineup for the Raptors last year of Quickley, Gary Trent Jr., RJ, Barnes, and Poeltl. And it was a +11.8 per 100 possessions and a 300+ possessions. I think Gradey Dick is a more effective player within that group of players than Gary Trent Jr. I do not think they're going to miss Gary Trent Jr. really at all. I think the defense is pretty comparable, honestly, and I think the offensive dynamism that Dick brings to the table as a guy who's not just a standstill catch-and-shoot guy who walks into long mid-range twos is going to give such just like a greasing effect to this offense. I think it's going to be awesome. I am taking a hard over on this one, and I am probably going to talk about this lineup on tomorrow's show when we get into our bold predictions with Joseph Cacharo as well. So over for me. On to more total dunks. Usually we go most total dunks in the team, but this one feels like it's going to be one guy, and he's going to win by a lot because he killed the rest of the team last year. So this is fun. More total dunks, Scottie Barnes or the rest of the starting five combined. Scottie Barnes had 73 dunks last year. RJ Barrett had 29 for the Raptors. Poeltl had 26. Gradey Dick had 13. Immanuel Quickley had 4, which makes 72 dunks. It was very close. I'm going to take. Wait, it's Sahal. You're up first for the pick on this one. More dunks combined, Barnes or the entire starting five.
You said you had the dunk stats. How much did Poeltl have last year?
He had 26 dunks last year.
And in how many games was that?
60 games. Or sorry, not 60 games. He played 50 games.
50 games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to. This is another one, Sean. You keep doing this, man. I'm just gonna go Scottie.
I can't win this thing, but I'm damn good at making this thing.
Yeah, I mean I'm on the fence with a lot of these. I'm gonna go Scottie Barnes.
All right, he's going Scottie. Yeah. I'm going to take the rest of the starting five. I think it's going to be very close, but I do think RJ is going to dunk a lot. I think, he only played 30-something games for the team last year and had those 29 dunks. He was the next best on a per-game dunk basis. There's a thing that's a real stat. And so I think with that, I think Gradey Dick going to throw down quite a bit. The guy likes to dunk. He should dunk more, frankly. He's in position to do it a lot, and he kind of goes for these dazzling layups, which are also fun, but dunk it, baby. So yeah, I think it'll be the starting five. It could be pretty close, but I'm going starting five on this one. Big V, what about you?
I am also going with the starting five. I do think that,
Yeah.
some of the numbers for like guys like Yak and RJ too missed some time. Obviously, Scottie missed a lot of time, but
Yeah.
I do think that skews it a bit in terms of how we look at it. So I don't mind backing the rest of the starting five to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I think Scottie's going to have a whole buttload of dunks as well, probably more than he had last year because of space and stuff. But yeah, I'm going to go
Hmm.
starting five. I think that's the safer pick. All right, next one here. Number of players from the opening night 15-man roster traded before the trade deadline. I've set the over-under at 3.5, and I'm up first. I'm going to take a very slight under. I think 3 guys get traded. I think they are Bruce Brown. I think it's Chris Boucher, and I think it's one of Kelly Olynyk or Davion Mitchell. I think that's where I'm going to set it. I don't feel great about it because who knows how this is all going to play out, but they've kind of done their tear down at this point. I'm going to take a very slight under and say 3 guys get dealt. Vivek, what about you?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one. I think it's really interesting at 3.5. So I am tempted to go over, but I am gonna
Because you're
go
one of
with
these trade Jakob Poeltl sickos, you little
no,
freak.
no. No one is saying trade Jakob Poeltl. We are just reading the tea leaves and looking at the potential scenarios. And even to expand on what I was saying before, of like, why would they not have as great a plus minus and then not have the opportunity for it to get better? I'm looking at the schedule at the start of the season. Everyone talks about those first 25 games. The 25 games after that aren't great either. And so you could be in a very bad situation.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, there might be some contenders looking at Jakob Poeltl and saying, hey, he might get us over the line. That's all it is. And so
Are they trading a guy who can play center next year? Because they're going to need one of those. Anyway, I digress. Carry on.
with all of that being said,
Yeah.
let's have some fun. I'm going to go over after all.
All right. Fun. Another tear down. How fun. Sahal, what about you?
I think the Raptors are going to keep things the same because I think the expectations are fairly the same. I do think a couple guys for sure. Bruce Brown, I don't know how he stays on this team for the full season, but I'm going to take the under.
Extension time, baby.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under because I think midway through the season, or at least at the trade deadline, we're going to quickly realize that, and I hate to be pessimistic, but it worked for me last year. There's going to be no saving the Raptors in terms of pushing this team into the playoffs or them making a playoff run or anything like that. I honestly do think the ceiling of this team is being a playoff contender. So getting into that space for the Eastern Conference. But yeah, I'm going to go under.
Okay. We move on to final offensive ranking. I've set this at 15.5. Over means you think they'll be better than 15th. Under or 15th or better. Under means you think they'll be 16th or worse. Vivek, I believe we go to you to kick this one off.
So I do think they will improve offensively. I'm gonna shade. I'm gonna go with under, and I think they'll be in sort of the late teens as far as their offense.
All right, fair enough. So, how what about you?
I'm going to go under as well. Yeah, I do think, like Vivek said, they're going to improve, but they're not going to get there.
You guys are just Darko Ball skeptics. It's frankly pathetic. They're going to be a top half offense this year. We'll see about the defense. We'll get to that next. But I think, again, that starting 5 is going to score a whole lot and inflate their offensive rating. And they're just, if they want to be like doing anything serious, if they want to be playing competitive basketball, it's because their offense is humming. I don't think they have the defensive talent to keep themselves afloat with defense alone. And so, yeah, I am going to say over. I think they finish in the top 15. I actually think they finish as high as like 11th or 12th. The offense is not going to be the problem for this team, especially when the starters are in. Kelly Olynyk's a very good offensive player. There's more shooting than they've had in a while, which is maybe not saying a whole lot because they're not exactly flush with shooting everywhere. But maybe Jakob Poeltl gets in there, hits some threes. I think the offense is going to work just fine because Darko Rajakovic, the man's offense gets good shots. They were number 6 in shot quality after the trades last year, after January 1st. They are a team that gets good shots. I think they're going to hit more of those shots and be a good offense. Defensively, could be a different story. Sahal, I've set the over-under for the defense at 23.5. Therefore, if you think they will be better, 23rd or better, it's over, or under is 24th or worse. What you got here? They were 27th in defense last year.
I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I think if Jakob Poeltl goes down at any point in the season, the defense completely and utterly falls apart, especially if you kind of slide Kelly in there. I hate to really be critical with Kelly, but the defense I've seen, I mean, that's probably what didn't even get him on the court when he was with Canada. So,
sure.
And I think that's, again, I'm sticking to that same, hey, by the end of the year, the Raptors may just be like, we're taking a break, everybody sit. And it just may look like a disaster, which might be a good thing for the draft pick again. So I'm going to take the under, I believe. Right?
Yep. I think it's going to be close. I don't think they're going to be pathetic like they were last year. I think they'll just be merely bad, which probably puts you in the sort of the low 20s area. 23. Oh man. Am I doing the thing where I'm optimistic again by accident? What the hell? Okay, just to hedge my bet, I said the offense is going to be good. I'm going to take the under and say they'll be like 24th in defense. Vivek, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to take the under.
None of us believe in picking up the defense further up the court, huh?
No, I mean, they have picked up better defenders for sure. And you look at, I think it is interesting that you said it at 23 and a half, because you feel like, okay, come on, that's, just trying to be better
than
that
high a bar to clear, man.
Defenses. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, taking the over. The Raptors are a defensive juggernaut. In quotes, Vivek Jacob. I'm very much looking forward to quoting that one later as well. We move on. Regular season wins. This is a big boy. The FanDuel over-under is at 30.5 right now. It was 29.5 a little while ago, but it's gone up a little bit. 30.5. What do we think about this team? What do we think they're going to do? What do we think of the possibility for leaps and the capacity for internal growth to power them somewhere? What do we think of the bench not being an abject failure? I think they're going to be better than 30.5 wins. I think the Eastern Conference in the bottom sucks. I think the Wizards, the Nets, the Pistons, probably the Hornets, and definitely Josh Giddey's Bulls are worse than the Raptors. I also think that the lower lights out west are not very good either. I think the Jazz are going to stink out loud. I think the Portland Trailblazers are not good. The Clippers, it's going to be James Harden just hanging out, cashing checks while the rest of that team falls into disrepair. It's going to be a lot of bad teams in the league this year. I think that's going to inflate the win total a little bit. And I do believe in the power of a Scottie Barnes leap, which I've kind of picked with some of my other suggestions earlier on. When you have a guy who's an all-NBA level player, you win more games. That's how basketball works. Good players make team win games. And so I'm going to go slight over. I don't think they're going to go and win like 40 games or anything like that. But of course, we get to pick for an exact guess for a bonus point here, which I forgot to outline. I'm going to say the Toronto Raptors win 34 games this season. And I don't know if I feel great about it, but I'm glad to feel some optimism on this day before the season starts, because when else are we going to feel it? I'm going to lose again. Over at 34. Vivek, what you got?
I am going to take a very slight under. I am going to go with a 30th anniversary special. 30-52 is where the Raptors will finish.
All right. One win for every year of the franchise. Love to see it. All right. Sahal, what do you got, man?
One of the most common phrases in the world, if it's not broke, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I was a pessimist last year. It put the crown on my head. And I will be a pessimist, unfortunately, this year, Raptors fans. I am going to take the under. And unlike Vivek, I mean, slight relatively, right? I don't think it's going to be 30. I think it's going to be closer to 25 wins. And it's, again, this isn't an indictment on the starting five or anything like that. Or, I mean, I don't think Rajakovic is an amazing coach. I also don't think he's a horrible coach. But I do think it's going to be closer to 25 simply because I'm looking at the standings last year. And if the Raptors land anywhere from the 12th seed to the 15th, they're likely looking at under 30 wins, which I think is where they'll land, because if they're 1 or 2 injuries, maybe even 1 injury away from everything falling apart. I gotta be a pessimist. I'm sorry, Raptors fans. I'm so sorry.
Hey man, it's worked. 25 is your pick exactly, yeah?
I'll go 26. Thank you for asking.
26. 26, it's in stone. Guys, am I too predictable? Do I have too much of a shtick? Am I too much of a caricature of myself at this point? We can save these these existential wonderings for later if we want, but that's just how I'm feeling right now. Final position in the Eastern Conference standings. I set the over-under at 11.5. So if you think over, you think they'll be 11th or better. If you think under, you think 12th or worse. Spoiler alert, I have them finishing over that, so I'll just put mine in. I think they're going to be the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference. They might even be the 9th seed. I don't buy the Hawks, man. But no, they're not going to be the 9th seed. Maybe the Heat just flame out. What am I doing? I'm just coping now. Vivek, you're up. What's over under 11.5 in the Eastern Conference? I'm losing my mind here. I'm having a huge crisis on this end.
Yeah, I'm gonna, lean in on the pessimism, and I'm gonna say that they finished 12th in the East. And so I
You think there are gonna be multiple teams in this group of garbage teams at the bottom who get more than 30 wins? I'm not here to pick. You're under. You already picked it, but
you've got Brooklyn, Washington, Detroit, who I am confident about. And then after that, Charlotte's a toss-up. Atlanta's a toss-up. Chicago, you could potentially put in that category with Washington and Detroit and
the
Brooklyn.
Josh Giddey experience is going to be so bad, and no one's ready for it, man.
So that's the part where it gets a little tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe this is a way for me to hedge the 30 wins.
There you go. Perfect. I did no such hedging whatsoever. I'm dumb. Sahal, what you got? I'm guessing you're going under here as well?
I'm going to go under here as well. And I'm going to go they'll be the 13th seed. And I know it's low. I'm a little higher on some of the teams that you guys seem low on, like the Pistons, for example. They did add a couple players that are a little bit interesting. Tobias Harris, I think, makes
We're
it a little better.
hyping up Tobias Harris?
Just a little bit. Like Tobias Harris he's not the best player in the world, but when you look at the Pistons,
that guy over me.
they look like on paper they became a little better. Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway, like these are good rotation guys.
You know that guy that drives winning basketball, Tim Hardaway Jr. Oh God.
I mean, people are really, I think, underestimating how bad the Pistons roster has looked the last 3-4 years. So
no, we're not, and it's still bad because it's still bad players to it.
Yeah. I do think, like Vivek said, the Bulls are a team that is an underdog. I think a lot of people think they're going to be this playoff pushing team. I don't know. I don't see it this year with the Bulls. I think again they could trade.
No, I think the only people who think that are Arturas Karnasophis and the people who work in his office.
Yeah, I don't. And I think Charlotte's going to finish. Oh man, maybe I'll just stick to the non-explanation for the pessimism because people are going to be like, wait, how do you have this and that? The Raptors will finish 13th with 26 wins.
All right. 13th. Wow. You don't get points for picking exactly where they fall, but that's fine. Yeah. Last question on the board. Season-ending award winners. MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, All Defense, All Rookie, Six-Man, all the main ones we know, okay? 0.5 is the over-under. The Raptors won 0 awards last year. Sahal, do they have an award in them somewhere? Over or under 0.5?
Is this where I should flip on my pessimism? No, I'm still gonna go under. I don't think they get
all right.
I don't think they get an award this year. Yeah, I don't. I was thinking maybe Scottie fits into that all defense somewhere, but yeah, I don't. I do see Scottie taking a leap, but people are really just gonna look at our record and be like, hey, and shrug. So I'm gonna go under.
All right, I guess I'm sticking on brand. I'm gonna take the over. It's not a lot to clear, and I do think they have more guys who could be in the running for some stuff this year. I think Quickley, most improved player, Maybe not the favorite, but certainly it could happen with the increased usage he's going to have and the brand new role, the more responsibility. The stats are probably going to uptick on account of all of the assists he's going to get. Remember earlier. So there's that. I think Scottie Barnes could make all NBA in like a top 10% outcome for this season, top 15, 20%. If you play like he did in that game on Tuesday, that's an all NBA player. I think, there's a chance for, again, you mentioned all defense. I think there's Scottie Barnes who could have the counting stats to be considered in that. The defense of the team won't be good enough for it to happen, but, maybe some crazy thing happens. We'll see. But of course, the one I'm going to pick is, look, there are only, 50 rookies who play in a given season. The Raptors might have 3 of them. Give me one of them to make a second-team all-rookie. Give me Jonathan Mobo or Jakob Poeltl making second-team all-rookie to give us just one Piddly award for this. I'm taking the over, and I'm ready to be wrong, but I don't care. Big V, what you got?
I'm going to go with the under.
Coward.
Yeah, I just don't see enough team success to validate any selections. I think Scottie is in for a big year, but I just don't think he'll get noticed enough. And then on top of that, with the positional changes and, positions becoming irrelevant, you have more bigs, I think, taking up spots in the league now where there are some really great bigs. So I think that's going to be another challenge for him. So.
Fair enough. Jamal Shed one day will make it all defense team. One day, maybe in his second year. The first year seems like a bit of a reach. That's going to do it for our over-unders. We got one last bit of business. That's the tiebreaker question, which is how the listener contest was won last year. And so it does matter. The tiebreaker for this year, guys, total points scored by Ulrich Shamshay with Raptors 905 this season. They play like 50-something games. He's going to get a lot of time down there. I'll put my bet in. I'm going to say 432 is my Ulrich Shamshay points scored for Raptors 905. He gives him about 10 a game if he plays 40-something games. That seems fine. Vivek, what you got?
I don't think it's 50-something games.
It's definitely 50-something games. I think it might be exactly 50, but you can keep on doing your research all you want.
They play a 50-game regular season.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sahal.
There we go.
So I will go, you had it at 400. I'll go with 330.
330.
I'm just all about this 30th anniversary. I'm riding it.
Sahal, what you got?
I'm going to go 416. How about that, guys?
Hey!
Wow.
There you go.
I'm going to go 416 for
You almost reverse prices right into yourself by putting yourself only 16 points beneath me. So if he goes over, you're screwed. But there is that little window where you might get him. Either way, that is going to do it. Our picks are in. This is the year, baby. I definitely picked the right year to be optimistic about the Toronto Raptors. It's all going to come up roses for me. God, I don't feel good at all, guys, but I'm glad that we got to do this. Very much appreciate it. Anything you guys want to promote out there? Big V, anything you got cooking out there?
The Raptors in 7 newsletter, Sportsnet NBA previews, and besides that, you can follow me on Twitter at Vivek M. Jacob.
Sahal, what about you?
I'm no longer, very unfortunately, with Raptors Republic, but they did make a very recent cool move. Getting picked up by the Nation Network. So, follow Raptors Republic, support them, and honestly, just support the Raptors media as a whole. Just works so hard for a team that, honestly, again, may not be that great this year. So don't kind of just trudge along in the season. Support these people; they're great people. And I'm very biased, so support Raptors Republic a little bit more than the rest of them. So.
Well, after Locked On Raptors and the Locked On Raptors newsletter, of course, which you'll have links to Raptors Republic stuff in there, probably. Why not? Share the love. Either way, that's going to do it. Subscribe to the Locked On Raptors newsletter. Join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord. Great place to come hang out with sickos just like you, where you can all laugh at me for being, wait, why was I so optimistic? What's happened here? I can't believe what's going on. Wow. God, can't I do it now? It's installed. I'm going to be real psyched if all of these overs hit.
Yeah.
God. All right. We'll leave it there. Thanks so much for hanging out. We will talk to you again on Wednesday with bold predictions with Joseph Cacharo. I'm sure I won't get those wrong either. Thanks so much for hanging out. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye. Oh, missed.